Can you tell me why? Yeah, if you just flatly assert, this bloke has got a very complex argument which I'm going to take you through. He's got a very complex argument. Just to say, well, I think he's wrong, that won't cut the mustard. If you haven't got a better argument, then surely you've just got to agree with it. Now, you won't like that, but that's just rational, isn't it? He sets out a clear argument, and all you've got is your kind of feeling in your heart and your bones. So I'm afraid that's not going to cut much ice. Write it down, write it down. See, you're just intellectually lazy if you think, well, I think I've got the right answer. I want words. You're going to need to copy what's up there. I'll give you a copy.
How does it work? I think it's different from notes where all you have to do is know how to...
Yeah. That was right.
Yeah. Do algebra. Yeah. Yeah. The algebra has a use, a vocational use, people might argue. Meaning, yeah. So that would be your argument, right? Yeah. So you are for learning the physical skills that they have value in and of themselves, is what you're saying. Yeah. So you have to give an argument why.
Also the clinical skills, it's not just riding a bike, riding a bike takes a lot more. Lance Armstrong used to say he's a robot and just
That's
rides.
right. That's a good example.
And
And also skills, for instance, you not have a wide range of cognitive content. So new skills requires or execute a skill requires cognitive.
Like your tennis, like you need to know
So you're thinking about strategy, strategizing in the game.
But like, if your skills not going like well, say you can't pick a ball very well, you've got to understand why, what's going wrong in your technique or your skill.
Yeah.
It's causing you to treat it so badly.
So, okay.
I'm going to take 3 from this table here first. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. So you're up first. Nice and loud so everybody can hear, especially me.
Might we just turn around, Levi, because the class is down here.
I mean, it's saying that P or skills don't have much cognitive content or like thinking through the brain, like you said, like skill like that doesn't take much thinking through the brain to know how to ride a bike. So it's rather almost happen just through repetitiveness rather than kind of like cognitive thought. Like
But you've got this intuitive grasp, which is absolutely right, and you used his phrase. P and skills don't have much cognitive content. But what the hell does that mean? I mean, what does that really mean? Cognitive content. Yeah, have a crack. It's a tough one, I know.
I think it's kind of like, well, still like learning through the brain, right? So I think it's more.
I suppose, what other kind of learning is that?
Well, I think it's.
Oh, that's a serious question.
I don't know, like you said, like swimming, or you don't normally think about that, like learning how to swim. It's more, I mean, kind of almost happens to practice rather than like kind of thinking about it. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if that's true. The reason you're finding it difficult is not because you're inarticulate. It's just a really difficult idea. It's a very difficult idea. So wide-ranging cognitive content is a very important idea in educational theory. What does it mean? Anybody going to try and advance that along? Okay.
I think you can teach a child to run, you can teach a child to ride a bike, you can teach a child to swim, but you can't teach a child the concepts of, I don't know, complicated physics or complicated poetry, you know.
Oh, that's a really good one. That's a really good point. What if I did this in a really, a kind of unphilosophical vernacular, and I just said something like, there just ain't much to know, as opposed to physics, chemistry, biology, literature, history, politics, economics, psychology. There, you've got a complex body of knowledge. What you guys got? Well, you've got some fancy tricks. Maybe you can do a handstand. Most of you probably can't. A couple of you can do a standing back, maybe. Maybe. What's there to know about all that stuff? That's what he's saying. What's there to know? And it's not him, but you two who said it's really more about knack than understanding. You know, learning. We live in the countryside, and so Fionn, my youngest daughter, she's got to go to school for a week, and we were cycling Saturday and Sunday to the school. But we live in the countryside. Now, it's a different set of skills in a way, cycling in town and cycling in the country. You need a different range of perceptual skills. Looking over your shoulder. Have you forgotten how hard it is to go in a straight line and look over your shoulder? Because what you want to do is just do that, you know? So you shift your whole body and then, of course, it's going every... So that's what I was doing Saturday and Sunday. And what I said to her is, when you're doing that, work out, is it easier not to cycle, a freewheel and turn, or cycle and turn? And because there's less going on, it's easier to freewheel. But I didn't give her any complex biomechanical story. I just said, just try it, see what feels comfortable. And lo and behold, with practice and repetition, she grasped the skill. Not through any theory. Okay, so now we're getting some good ideas about the prejudice. The subject matter of PE is actually not educational. It hasn't got wide-ranging cognitive content. What did you have?
I just said basically that PE doesn't contribute to other areas in life, like science or life skills.
So one of the other things he meant by wide-ranging cognitive content is, if you understand history, you're going to see the world in a different way. So a person who knows nothing about history, who walks downtown and just sees that crumpled old stone building, but doesn't see it as a cathedral, or doesn't understand the importance of religion in the evolution of New Zealand lifestyle, or in its modernisation, or in the clash between indigenous populations and those who came afterwards. If you start to understand those historical things, you're not now just looking at a bunch of stones. And when you're trying to determine answers to the economic question, can we afford to rebuild this building? You've actually got a different kind of question. Is this just a lump of stone and mortar or cement? Or is it something with symbolic value? Is it something which goes to the heart of what it meant for these new people to come to New Zealand and here develop a new lifestyle and culture in the midst of Christchurch? Enamoured of historical understanding, you start to see the world differently. That's part of what he meant. That's part of what I think you're getting at there. There's not much to know in PE, is there? On the contrast, if you understand history or economics or politics, this is opening up the way you view the world. You become a different person.
I just want to elaborate on what you're saying. All of these historical subjects have been thought about and have been taught for years and years and years, whereas PE's always been looked at as a game, as something that you do to relax afterwards. But why, as humans, do we physically need that relaxing thing or that release from the other subjects in PE? It's always been looked at as a game, but if we actually look at it as something that's real, that we need as humans, then maybe we can discover it more in depth, which we've never really looked at as more just a game, not being looked at as a full subject.
I think that's a good point, and that's largely what he's up to here. When he uses that word serious. And I've got two kinds of responses to that very good comment. And the first is this. You could argue that play was a human need.
Yeah,
and I think you could make a really, that's what I try to do.
That's what I mean, kind of coming from the play.
I think that's a kind of strong case. Yeah. But you could say, but what's physical education? about play. What's physical education about play? If it was just about play, you might say it's an important human need that you're addressing, but you have to answer this question. Yeah, but play, by definition, is non-serious, isn't it?
Is that just what it's been looked upon historically, or is that an actual concept? Because why do we have to play as a release kind of mechanism?
Yeah, well, you invented the word release for me, not me, so I'm going to skip that, okay? But I'm going to say play by definition is non-serious.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's what most theorists would say, although there is an answer to my challenge. But let's not worry about that right now. You understand what I say when I say play is non-serious?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, but Peter says, yeah, but education is about the serious business of living. That's why you're not educational. So in a way, that's a dangerous, if you're going to play his game, if you're going to respond on his terms, that's a dangerous move to make. Yeah, what's valuable about what we do is it's non-serious.
But what I'm saying is, if we now take it as a serious subject, why then did we gravitate towards it in the past without even thinking it was a serious subject? We always, as humans, we always wanted to play, and it was a great way of kind of bringing people together, but we always just looked at it as a side hobby, as not as serious as the other thing.
Okay. Now here's one answer to that very good question. It's really important what you do, right? Educationally important. How about that? I really value what you gym teachers do. I really think it's important to get kids fit and active. But don't let's call it education. Because education is a serious activity. That's fun, and it's important, but it ain't really education. Now you're really struggling.
I think I've learned through sport than I ever have through poetry, though.
Again, please.
I think I've learned through sport than I ever have through poetry.
Maybe that's just an individual psychological thing. That's how you learn. What we're interested in is the subject. Yeah? Go ahead.
I'm just the same. Yeah. I just think most people in the class would be like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you're the odd one out here, not us.
I understand my view, but I understand the other stuff too.
You say there might not be much to know about physical education, but I think there's still infinite amount of lessons to be learned and values to gain. And, you know, I think the benefits of physical activity is so vast that it can't not be a part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
That's not going to be a very strong claim, though, against an educational policymaker who says, do you know what, your subject's really expensive, and we've got to cut our costs here. So let's just pick on those subjects we don't think are central to the educational enterprise, because maybe you can get kids, well, you do. I went off to Hagley Park on Wednesday afternoon. Fantastic to see all these kids being active. Just wonderful. And all through the weekend. What do you need a school subject for? Yeah, if you want to slash 10% off your budget, get rid of all the sports facilities and your PE teachers. Lastly, comes the chappie in black and red.
So I reckon he's saying that PE teaches how to and doesn't engage like the other subjects, other curriculum subjects. So
it's about knack.
Yeah.
It's about knack rather than understanding. And most of you, when I asked you, what's the answer? What's the question between difference between physical activity and phys ed? Most of you gave some kind of answer. What makes it educational is its focus on the why, focus on understanding. And then you just said that the way it's taught is taught really just like the development of physical skills or competence or ability. That doesn't look like it. It's a candidate for education. Now this is actually what Peter's wrote, 3 criteria. He said, logically speaking, education implies the transmission of what's worthwhile to those who become committed to it. Now I think in your last answer, you were trying to get to that bit there. What's the worthwhileness of the activities that comprise physical education? What's their value?
Right. You name any other subject that can teach leadership and confidence and
Tell you what, any good teacher in maths was I can do that. Any good teacher in biology was I can do that.
I've not seen that piece with it.
English.
Maybe you haven't been around a lot. So what, if I was being critical, don't worry about me challenging you.
No, I would appreciate it.
I'm just trying to stimulate, give you some friction. That's how you grow, isn't it? That's how you grow intellectually. It's how you grow sportingly, isn't it? You set yourself up against better opposition, you respond to that better opposition, right? So I'm just giving you kind of friction in order to stimulate you to grow. What they would say is, well, actually, that list of goals, that list of sociological goals that you're going to talk about, like confidence and leadership, any curriculum subject can do that, actually. What makes you think PE is unique? Tough question, that, but at least what you're trying to do here, which is a really valuable thing, is you're trying to say, what's the value of education? Very general question. And historically, people just took it for granted, let's say, at least from the 19th century in Britain. They took it for granted somehow that sports build good character. A very widely held belief that as an idea, it's very recent. I'm not sure the ancient Greeks thought about it. Or rather, I am fairly sure, and most of them didn't. It was just about winning. It was just about excellence. So this idea that sports can have a kind of character-building educational ideology is a very, very recent idea. It can't be more than a couple of hundred years old, if that. Secondly, he just says education must involve some kind of cognitive perspective. Wide-ranging cognitive content. But he also added this on, which I think is really interesting, which is not inert. Does anybody know what the word inert means? Inactive, doesn't play a role, is passive. So it means that if you know that a lack of physical activity is associated with various morbid conditions, that means you should be active. Right? It's not inert. It means that should change how you live your life. And that's a really strong claim, isn't it? I mean, how many PE teachers do you see that are overweight? Lots. Does that mean they are physically educated? Because the knowledge that they have is inert. It's not playing any role in how they live their lives. But what he says, if you're educated, what you know and understand should transform how you view the world, but how you operate in it too. You know how to use a clock, don't you? So you turn up at 8, not 9, when the lecture starts at 8. You know what kind of nutritional content you need in order to make your bodies healthy, but you still eat crap food or drink too many units of alcohol. Does that mean you're not physically educated? Because to be educated is not just about having knowledge and understanding in an intellectual sense. It's got to change the way you operate in the world, according to Peters. And lastly, he says, education at least rules out some procedure of transmission, how you do it, on the grounds that they lack wittiness and voluntariness of learners. So, two things about that. You might condition someone in physics or in biology to know all the facts that there are in that subject. But if you did it through brainwashing them, you'd say, well, that's not education. If I somehow found an injection to hook you up to all sorts of the world of physics, and you woke up the next morning knowing everything about physics, Peters would want to say, and I would agree with him, but you're not educated. And I'm not an educator if that's what I'm doing. If all I'm doing is brainwashing you, or telling you to do this because I say so, I'm not educating you.
What do you mean by brainwashing? Do you think teachers do that? Like,
so, for example, if I take life in communist Russia in the 70s, you would be taught philosophy, for example, but not philosophy as we know it. What you'd be taught is Marxist-Leninism. And there would be no alternatives. So I would just give you a very narrow diet of an educational curriculum and say, this is what you are, this is what you should know, this is what you have to reproduce. But I'm not trying to educate you in the sense of teach you what are the options out there, teach you what are the different kinds of questions and answers that people have believed, why they believed them, what reasons there are good and for, against, pro. That might be seen as an educational task. What I'm just trying to do is, this is what you've got to learn, this is what you've got to repeat, here's the party line. Well, that just looks like brainwashing. I'm conditioning your thinking, I'm not opening it up. I'm limiting it. So that's the first part about brainwashing is certain procedures of transmitting. But here's the other one, the voluntariness of the learner. This is a brilliant idea. It's an idea that you, I'll give you the quotation. He says, education can't be forced on unwilling minds. It's a brilliant one. If you're not receptive to my ideas, nothing I can do can help you bring yourself to a new end. You have to do that. That's why education is always a kind of reciprocal enterprise. Conditioning isn't. I can brainwash you. That's just a one-way street, isn't it? And that's often what goes on in education in very subtle ways. Paulo Freire, the Brazilian pedagogue, he called it the banking model of education. He said, really, all you've got to do is open the lids of the learners, drop in the content and seal the lid. Off you go. Is that education? Or is that some very complex form of brainwashing? Is that what you do when you're going out to a phys ed lesson? You just say, right, today we're doing this, off you go. Do this, do that. You organise the warm-up. Into 2 teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, off you go. Blow the whistle, start, end the lesson, bye. Is that educational? Let's, I'm going to stop in about 5 minutes, if that's okay. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine, thanks, fine.